Okay, Kelsey, I am so excited that you are here today. I almost said good morning because it's morning here, but it's not morning there. So this is my problem. I swear, I always want to say good morning, and then I'm like, it's either not morning here or not morning there. So I got to stop with that.
What
It's
about
fine.
when somebody like tells you it's like when you're getting on a flight and the flight attendant you're getting on and they're like, have a nice flight. And you're like, you
You
too.
too. Oh my gosh, that happens all the time. And I'm like,
Every
I need,
time.
wait, I don't know. Just, it's fine. Anyway, well, I'm glad you're here. I'm going to let you introduce yourself in a second, but I heard you on the Good Enough Mompreneur podcast, and you touched very briefly on your story. And everything else you said was super great. And I listened to her because I'm an mompreneur, right? And I'm an entrepreneur. And there's just such I didn't go to school for this, right? So like I don't know what I'm doing half the time. So which is why I listen to those types of podcasts. But gosh, when you kind of just touched briefly on your story and what led you to where you are today, I was like, I need to talk to her. I want to because what you're doing now is so amazing and it's just inspiring. And I think the people that my audience are mostly caregivers, right? And
Mm,
I want them to hear that whether it's they feel so much shame because of things they've done in their past, or they are now seeing their teens or even younger kids that they're like worried, is my child going to be a successful adult, right? Because of trauma and all the things, or maybe just someone in their life. I want them to hear there is hope and that trauma doesn't have to define us and that we can actually do amazing things as we heal. So that's just my little caveat to let the listeners know and just to let you know, like, this is why you're here, because I want people to hear that there's hope and they're not alone and they don't have to sit in shame, and we get to move forward and we get to choose what we do next. So, anyway, with that, can you introduce yourself?
yeah, of course. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. It's always interested to see like just hear from people what really like resonates,
Hmm.
when I'm speaking or doing interviews and stuff. And I think that it's just a reminder like the importance of not being ashamed of who we once were or what we once did, and
Hmm.
understanding and really like flipping the script of those things actually make us better. And I'm sure
Hmm.
we'll get more into that in this episode, but I think that like our failures are our greatest assets. Our shame
Hmm.
can be our greatest asset. And so just regardless of like where you are in your life, it's so important that you never have the expectation that there's not supposed to be failure, that you're not
Yeah.
supposed to have pain, right? Because there's so much purpose that can come from that. So I appreciate you having me and I appreciate you sharing that with me. My name is Kelsea Koenreich and I am a mom of three. I am married to my very best friend and I live
Mm.
in Florida. And I currently am a business and life advisor for mom entrepreneurs. And so, what that means is essentially, as entrepreneurs, the easiest thing to do is to pour everything into your business and your purpose, and
Hmm.
we lose ourselves. And so, between motherhood and entrepreneurship, these are our two easiest paths to forget who we are
Yeah.
and to essentially spend all of our time and our energy in those things. So, I really help establish women who have built something great, but they've lost themselves in the process. I help them on a tactical and tangible level with changing the business model, the structure, and the operations of the business. And with the high level strategy of what does the business need to look like to be highly profitable, to fuel the financial abundance that you want, but
Hmm.
then also on an internal level of who do we need to be to actually lead that movement? Who do we need to be leaders in our household and to be leaders for our teams? And what do we need to change in our thoughts, patterns, and behaviors in order to become the person who is living a more balanced and fulfilled life? Because it is my belief that we should be both professionally fulfilled and personally fulfilled.
Hmm. Yeah, that's good. Well, and I found your podcast after I, listened to your interview. And I really enjoyed that. I just finished the three-part series that you did on like basically healing, like, talking about the importance of sleep and the importance of, nutrition and feeding our bodies and mental health. And so that's what I love about you is like you're seeing that they go hand in hand, that we can't just be talking about how do we fill our, or how do we achieve our goals in our professional life without talking about our own health and our journey and our goals with like healing from what we may have lived through, right? So,
Mm.
anyway, I really liked that three-part series. So, thank you for that. That was good.
Yeah. Yeah, of course. I actually started in the health and fitness world. And so
Okay.
I
Okay.
truly believe that is why I'm a big believer in strong foundations, whether that's for a business, as a person, like you
Yeah.
can't build on sand. And I believe that as people, right, we hear the phrase of like, you can't pour from an empty cup.
Yeah.
So, right, your audience is caregivers. These are people who are pouring into things
Yeah.
outside of themselves. And we get so used to functioning from an empty cup. And it's like, imagine how much better you can give because at a certain point you're giving and you're feeling resentment, right?
Yeah.
Imagine how much better we can be for those people that we want to pour into if our cup is full. And so, just again, like shifting our thoughts and our belief system around like we're not selfish when
Yeah.
we take time for ourselves. We're not
Yep.
selfish if we tag a partner in because we need a break. We're not selfish for taking an hour to go to the gym. I just think that like our health, both physical and mental, is our foundation of anything, regardless, entrepreneur or not. It is our foundation.
Yeah. Yeah. So good. Well, I'm excited to talk more about all of this. I would like to go back to your beginning. So, I think it's important for, I think that we lose sight of the fact that, when you're parenting kids who have experienced trauma and have high needs and are neurodivergent and have all the letters diagnosis, right? It's hard. You lose sight of, um, they can grow up and be successful adults, and that
Mm.
this is not defining who they are right now, and that we can help them heal and grow. I don't know your childhood story. I just, all I know is the little bit that you shared, right? About your early adult life. And so I'm just curious, like, what was your childhood like? Let's go back to that beginning. Tell us about that.
Mm. Unstable,
Mm-hmm.
very unstable. My parents divorced when I was 2 years old. So I was from house to house and had two drastically different households. One that
Mm,
was both definitely authoritarian types of parents, but one that was like more controlled and structured, and one that there was no structure at all. And so I think it was very confusing as a
mm-hmm.
kid, right? I think that I felt a lack of safety,
Mm,
and because I didn't feel safe, what that transferred into as I got older was a lot of experimentation and trying to find that safety, that
yeah.
certainty, that love, all the things that we need as kids that I don't feel that I received. Um, and it's difficult because I believe that our parents do the best
Yeah.
they can with what they have. And
Yeah.
I'm so grateful that we are now in a generation where we have so much research, so much help, so many books like you and I were just
Yeah.
talking about that can help us. But there's also the desire of you have to want to be a better parent. You
Yeah.
have to, and changing generational patterns is not an easy task.
Mm-hmm.
So, yeah, it was very, my parents loved me. I never doubt that they loved me. But I had a mother that was not physically or emotionally present. And I
Mm,
had a father that was, you know, going back and forth between houses. You're just like, I didn't see him as often as I was with my mom. I think
mm-hmm.
he wanted to be there, but when you become an adult, you learn that your parents are human, which is
Yeah.
so
Yeah.
silly, right? But like, you're like, oh shit, like they were going through hard stuff too.
Yeah. Yeah.
So yeah, there was just a lack of structure, a lack of stability, and a lack of safety is where everything kind of bloomed from.
Yeah. Yeah. So fast forward then, like teen, early 20s, what did that look like for you?
So I started again kind of seeking, what I know now is that I was seeking a place to be accepted
Mhm.
and to belong, right? Like we're wired for connection. And so
Yeah.
we want to be seen, heard, and understood. I was looking for that because I wasn't getting that in my house, in
Mhm.
either household. Um, and the easiest place to find that is partying,
Mhm.
drinking,
Yeah.
substance abuse, right? So there was a lot of experimentation that started around 14 for me. And there was sneaking out. There was like the experimentation that I think there is some level of like normal, if you will, with
Yeah.
kids. And I just kept pushing. And I think I was seeking that attention. I was seeking that love. I was seeking that acceptance. And so there was a lot of drinking, a lot of sexual
Mhm.
interactions. My first experience, um, actually, I was raped when I was 14.
I'm sorry.
And I was like blackout drunk.
Yeah.
And so I think from that, it just created this like, you can kind of do two things when you experience something like that. You can either close, or you can either like, that was my fault. And so then
Yeah.
you like do it more. And that's the path that I took, is like, okay, this is the only way I can use my body to get people to pay attention to me.
Mm.
Right. And
Mhm.
then I felt so much shame around using my body that it was like, well, drugs and alcohol can numb that
Numb that.
pain.
Yep. Mhm.
And so that went on for almost 10 years. Um, when I was 18, I was arrested for the first time.
Okay.
Um, I was arrested for not completing community service, for like a written arrest that I had gotten, actually for urination in public, which is kind of funny to say now.
Yeah.
Not funny at the time,
No,
but
no.
but that was my first experience. I was obviously drunk and
Mhm.
urinated in public, got written arrest, whatever. Didn't complete my community service. That was my first experience in jail. And then I was arrested again, not even a year later, for a DUI.
Mm.
And that was my first DUI. So after that, I moved back home. I was in Gainesville attempting
Okay.
to go to college because I thought that was like what you're supposed to do.
Yeah, yeah.
So I came home and tried to find normalcy, was back at my mom's house, got like a 9 to 5 job, quickly found a place to party again.
Mhm.
And long story short, ended up with my third and final arrest in 2010, which was another DUI and a felony drug charge.
Oh,
And
wow.
that was like my breaking point moment, my rock
Yeah.
bottom moment, that really changed everything. I opened my eyes and I'm like foggy, and I talk about this in my book, but it was just this moment, and it's like so impactful now to think about it, because I woke up, I was wearing contacts at the time. And have you ever worn contacts?
I wear contacts, yeah.
Yeah, so you know when you cry, how they get foggy
Yeah,
and like
yeah,
dry? So I'd
yeah.
been crying when I was arrested, so I got up and I'm like looking in the mirror, and it was like fuzzy,
Mhm.
and it was like I saw myself for the first time ever in my life.
Mm.
And I was like, if I keep going down this path, I'm gonna die.
Yeah, yeah.
And it was like I had to make a choice in that moment. I'm having conversations with the other people. I was actually in the medical unit because I told them I was going to take my own life.
Okay.
And I'm in there with people who are in there for murder and people going
Yeah,
through withdrawals. And I'm like, whoa,
yeah,
whoa, and that was the moment that changed everything for me. It was like, okay, do you want to live or do you want to die? And I
yeah,
chose to live, luckily. But
yeah.
it took a lot for me to get to that place.
And you remember that, like, that's, the blurriness and the conversation with yourself, like, very clearly.
Vividly.
Yeah. Yeah, it's
Yeah.
still there.
Mhm.
Mhm. So what did you do then? You get out and then what?
And then it was honestly asking for every bit of help that I could find.
Yeah.
I found a second chance program that we have here in Florida. It's called Drug Court.
Okay.
They offer a program here called Teen Court too, which is really cool because I've been able to be involved and work with some of the teens there. Um, And so it's essentially like you complete this program and they will take the felony off your record.
Okay. Okay.
So I was like, okay, yes, because I knew that with a prior DUI and a DUI and a felony that I was actually going to be facing some time. And
Yeah.
so I put myself in that program before my court date so I could show up and
Okay.
be like, I'm sober, I'm doing
I'm
something
doing it.
about
Yep.
this. And so that's what I did. I put myself in that program. I was going to AA, I was going to NA. I worked with a life coach actually for the first time, and I had been in therapy prior. Um, and I think that therapy is necessary, and different modalities of therapy like are so, so helpful. And I think what didn't work in therapy was there was no forward plan for me. It was all about like
Oh.
understanding my past. And so I think that life coaching, because I was in
Oh.
this moment where it's
Yeah.
like, you have to move forward from the shit, Kelsey. Like you have
Yeah.
to understand, you understand why you're making these choices. Now, what are you going to do about it?
Yeah.
And so I
Yeah.
think that was really helpful in like understanding the world of coaching and how it can really propel you forward and break patterns and things like that. So yeah, it was just surrounding myself. I couldn't drive. So after I went through this life coaching, I was in this life coaching program. It was like almost like I did my mental health first,
Hmm.
and then it was like physical. I had never been somebody that had been consistent with working out. And I sat down with my little paper planner. And mind you, I'm bartending sober this entire
Okay.
time. I'm
Wow.
still in the bar scene.
That's a
Yeah, because
big
I
deal.
it was like talk about like grit and resilience, like having it in your
Yeah.
face every single
Every
day.
single day. Yeah.
But when you truly want something different,
Yeah.
like nothing can stop you.
Hmm.
And I tell people that every day, like, do you really want this, or is this something you think you want, or does somebody else have it, and so you think it's what you
Yeah.
should do? Because when you really want something, you'll do whatever it takes.
Well, and I can imagine that those around you that were seeing you working so hard and then seeing you still work at a bar may have had things to say to you about how, what are you doing? Why are you there? But it's really in us that we do what we need to do, right? So you
Mm.
probably heard that from the outside, but I think that's a lesson for us as caregivers, as parents, to be like, you can't control all the things, right? Like, I can't control the choices my kids make. And I have to trust that if they're saying that they are working on this or that they are doing this, I'm going to be there to cheer them on. And sometimes that's all we can do.
Yeah. I look back at it now, obviously being a mom now, and I think about my parents in those instances because
Yeah.
for a long time I was bitter, like, why did nobody try to help me? And
Mm,
then what I realized is that I wouldn't have listened anyways.
yeah. Yeah.
I wouldn't have heard it. I wouldn't have processed it. I wouldn't have changed. It's like, and I think that's the hardest thing as a parent is to know that like they're on their own timeline and that the only thing that we can do is control us.
Hmm. Yeah. That's
So
big.
hard.
Yeah. It's so hard. Like, even with toddlers, like, I just want to control, I just want you to do what but sometimes you can't. You have to just like share the power.
Yeah. You're like, okay, you can have the pink cup.
Yes,
I'm
right?
sorry I gave you the blue one.
Right?
Worst mom ever.
Isn't that? Yeah, yeah. So you then start focusing on your physical health, and what did that look like?
That looked like literally me sitting down with my paper planner, plugging in days that I was going to work out, like appointments,
Okay.
calling and texting, finding rides to the gym because I couldn't drive,
Yeah, yeah,
or riding my bike. Talk about like getting over your ego,
yeah.
right? Like, holy moly. Riding my bike to the gym. And it was just like I made those appointments with myself every single week. So I was going to the
Mhm.
gym almost every single day. And that started like my health journey. And it just gave me, it was so interesting when you shift your focus to like having purpose in your
Mhm.
day to where it was like, that's what I needed at that time, right? To where I'm working in a bar that I don't see any sort of like forward trajectory in my professional life. And so it was like, it gave me a goal to work towards. So I ended
Yeah.
up having like losing 50 pounds, which is not to glorify weight loss, but it was like
Mhm.
a goal that I had, right? And I
Mhm.
ended up doing that and feeling really proud of myself. And that's what turned into me actually getting my personal training certification, because people were
Mhm.
like, you look so healthy, you look so happy. Like, what are you
Mhm.
doing? So I was like bringing friends to the gym with me. And my now husband at the time, who we had met near the end of like that year in the program. Um, and he was like, he was actually a personal trainer. And he was like, you should help people in this way, because
Mhm.
he would see like how happy it made me. So that was like my step into coaching, actually, was
Okay.
in
Yeah.
the fitness arena.
Yeah. I love too that you just get a big smile on your face when you talk about your husband.
He's my
Like
best friend.
yeah, I could see that. Like you just lit up the moment that you said, and my husband.
Yeah.
So
I
tell
feel
me,
really fortunate to have him, because 3 kids, and my kids are 8, 6, and 3. So like we're still in the thick of it, And I
yeah.
feel like that's another thing that I work with a lot of clients on, is kind of just like mending relationships, and like the
Mhm.
communication that you need to do that, because it's really easy to be like, okay, well they're there, we're married, so like they'll be there when I'm like not busy. And it's like we always wanted to be a team. We always wanted to be a partner and stuff.
Mhm.
Like, and so I couldn't do anything that I do without him,
Mhm.
truthfully. He's
Mhm.
amazing.
That's awesome. Well, okay, so then to kind of fill in that gap of like from that point, how did you get to where you are now? Because you're doing such amazing stuff right now. And yeah, like how did we get there?
Yeah. So it's been a really like almost like a seamless evolution that's been really natural. Like just trusting myself
Hmm.
and knowing, like, I think that you have an internal knowing of like that you're meant for something bigger or meant for something more. And I think
Yeah.
the second that I started coaching people, even in their bodies, I had this knowing that you went through everything that you went through and learned all that you learned for something.
Yeah.
So it was like this, it's almost like I'm holding all of this like wisdom, if you will. And I'm like, what can I do with this?
Hmm.
And so I started in personal training in a gym. And one thing that you should know about me is that the way that my brain works is that I am like a fixer, right? As most of us women are.
Yeah.
And so anytime I see something that's not working well, I'm like, I can make that better.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
I'm like, which works really well for when like I can fix I can fix problems really quick,
Yeah. Yeah.
except for my own, of course, right?
Because
And
you can
so
see outside of you. Yeah.
yes, yes, 100%. And so I started in fitness, and I was like, man, they're charging people $50 a ssession, and I'm getting 7 of that. That feels
Oh,
not good to
wow.
me.
Yeah.
I'm doing all the work, because I was like bringing clients in,
Yeah.
because of my bartending career.
Mhm.
I was well known in my city.
Totally.
So
Yeah.
yeah, long story short, I was like, I'm gonna go train people in my garage. I bought a squat rack
Yeah.
in our house and was just started a personal training business in our garage that then turned into a actual gym in our city. And during the building of the physical location of the gym, I had started coaching online in 2012,
Okay.
2011, which is crazy to think that it was that long ago. Um, so yeah, 2011, because I'm originally from Texas. So I had some people reach out to me that I went to like elementary and middle school with, and
Uh-huh.
they were like, can you help me? And I'm like, I don't know. And Eric, my husband, of course, is like, yes, you can. You do
Yeah.
it, like
Yeah.
pushes me. And I'm like, okay. So I started my first business, which was Team Pro Science, and it was my online fitness coaching business. And it just grew like crazy. All I was doing was just sharing like my life and like what my clients were doing. It was so beautiful, and I ended up it just followed the trajectory of my life. So I
Mhm.
started competing in figure. So I'm a former figure pro. So I was
Okay.
competing in natural bodybuilding. Then I was competing in powerlifting at the same time, like
Oh my gosh.
overlapping. And so I was just like posting that I was doing this. And so then I was coaching women in powerlifting. And it was like, this is like still in the era where like women lifting heavy was like kind of a weird
Yeah.
thing.
Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. Just evolution of just, I started doing these things and then people coming to me and being like, teach me. And I'm like,
Yeah.
okay. Um, and
Because
then
you were
there was,
just being your authentic self and people saw
yes,
that and were drawn to it.
yeah.
Yeah.
It's it's like, and I still think that's such an important piece of just like attracting the right people.
Yeah.
And when you're yourself, like if you feel like you have to perform or put on a mask or not not be who you are, the people that you're doing that for are not even your people.
Right. Yeah.
So yeah, it was really cool. I built this really incredible business. I became a mom to my first, and then I was working with postpartum moms, getting them into strength training. Um, and there came a point in 2017 where I was like, you know what? I feel like something's missing here.
Mhm.
And what I had noticed is that a lot of the conversations had shifted a little bit. So when I was having conversations about like food and exercise, I was like, meh. But when I was talking to people about like, okay, you're not eating your macros, whatever, why? What's going
Mhm.
on in your
What's
home? What's
behind
going
it?
on in your
Yeah.
career? What's going on in your head? Like
Mhm.
started talking about the deeper level things and like behaviors, patterns,
Mhm.
habits, like those sorts of things. I loved that. And I was like,
Mm.
I feel like that this is the important stuff, if you will,
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
this is where change comes from. So I started doing that work and then I was like, what do I call this? What is this? And then it was like, oh, life coaching became like a thing. So
Mhm.
then I was like, I feel like I should be certified in this because that's what we do, you know.
Right.
So I got a life coaching certification when I was pregnant with my second child and launched this like hybrid coaching experience where I wouldn't do your workout plan and your food without us doing life coaching sessions.
Okay. Yeah.
And I saw the drastic change that came from when you combine the tactical,
Yeah.
like here's what to eat and how to move,
Yep.
with the internal, here's what to think, here's how to
Mhm.
challenge your thoughts, here's your here, let's address that pattern that you're seeing, let's have that conversation. I was like, I just found some sort of like magic sauce here.
Yeah. Yeah.
Like, it was crazy just to see the change, like, the weight loss and the PRs on the lifts were one thing, but, like, repairing marriages and, like, people getting
Mm.
raises in their jobs, so then people started starting companies. They were like, "Well, I want more freedom," and I'm like, "Well, why don't you start your own business?" And they're like, "Well,
Yeah.
teach me." I'm like, "Okay."
Yeah.
And that was really how it turned into like working with entrepreneurs. And so
Okay. Okay.
that was like the shift into, okay, now I'm advising people on them internally and also their tactical career, which is
Yeah.
entrepreneurship.
Yeah. It's like it just was the perfect evolution of what comes next, you know?
Right.
Yeah.
Crazy.
Yeah. Well, so I would love for you to talk a little bit more about that importance of us as parents being able to deal with our own trauma because otherwise we pass it on to our kids. And what I hear from you is like that you saw that like when you were helping them work on their internal, that's when you were seeing like the lasting change with like the big life things happening. And I imagine that that is kind of the path we would go with like how do we get parents to do that internal work so that they can not pass on this generational trauma.
Hmm. I think, oh man, it's so much easier to say than to do,
Yeah.
you know? And I think that one of the greatest things that I've ever been able to understand is the importance of personal responsibility
Mhm.
because it's really easy, whether it's in parenting or elsewhere, to look at the things that are not going the way that you want them to and blame how
Mm.
you feel on that.
Mhm.
And as parents, we can drastically change the way that we feel about parenting, the way that we feel in our house, the way that we feel in our relationships if we look at ourselves. But
Mhm.
it's uncomfortable, and that's why people
Yeah.
don't do it.
Yeah. That's it. Like
Mhm.
it's uncomfortable, it's hard. We have to face what we don't want to face, and then we just sit in it.
It's so true. I often compare it to, so anytime I'm challenging a behavior, right? I like to give people the validation that we are literally having to rewire your brain,
Yeah. Yeah.
which if we really get into like neuroplasticity, it's amazing because we
Yeah.
can change,
Yep.
but it also requires so much repetition
Yep.
to create that new neural pathway that, and it feels wrong. So I
Mhm.
will tell people whenever you're trying to change for the better, expect that you will feel guilty or it will feel wrong or it will feel uncomfortable, because if you go into it and you're like, "Okay, today I'm going to be a great parent." And you're like have the best
Mhm.
intentions, right? And then you're like, all I have to do is be a good parent and I have to do these couple things that I read from this book. But you don't actually understand how hard it's going to be to bite
Yeah.
your tongue when you want to yell,
Yeah. Yep.
walk away when you want to grab them. Like you
Yep.
don't, that's those are the moments, right? Where you have to, like you said, sit in that discomfort. And it's very much, former fitness coach in me is like strength training.
Yeah.
Like
Yeah.
hypertrophy is we have to tear the muscle
Mhm.
to build it. And so again, we're having to stop patterns in your brain that have been,
Yeah.
you've really created that groove in your brain. It's going to take some time to undo, but we're generally too short-sighted and impatient.
Yeah. Because we want
That's
the
the
quick
problem.
fix. Give me the quick
Yes.
fix. Give me the band-aid. Just tell me what to do to make this better right now.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. And that's the reality is that that just doesn't work. It'll give you a quick, like in the moment, it relief, but it's either going to be then 10 times worse tomorrow, or you're going to just keep, you know, you'll lose momentum because you're not going to see lasting change. And then you'll just throw in the towel and be like, this didn't work. I'm done. I'm out.
Oh, yes. Yes. And that's that in itself, that pattern.
Yeah.
And that's why I think awareness, like if anybody were to do anything right now that would make a drastic difference, it's awareness of what your patterns are. Like,
Yeah.
is that your pattern that you grasp onto a quick fix? And then when it doesn't work in a certain amount of time, that you give up and then you find yourself
Hmm.
searching for the next one. Because if you're, this is where personal responsibility comes in, right?
Hmm.
Like being, being like brutally honest with yourself about how you are contributing to the problem
Yeah.
is one of the most helpful things that you can do,
Yeah, for
because
sure.
problems are fixable.
Yep.
But
Yeah.
that honest accountability is, people don't want to look in the mirror.
I know. Well, because it's hard.
It's so hard. It's so hard. It's so uncomfortable. Every single time, every time I'm like, oh shit, this is a me problem. Like it's
Yeah, I
still like
know.
the work that I do is this, and still I'm like, oh man.
But I feel like that's actually, I mean, I think that a lot of what I see when I start working with a family is that they're wanting to say, fix my kid. There's something wrong with my kid. How do I get my kid to do better? And aren't ready to look at themselves. And so when we are catching ourselves saying, this is me, I did that. Like I triggered my kid. Of course, he's going to respond in that way because of what I did. That's growth. Like that's huge because it takes a while to even get there. So,
Mm,
um, and then we get to repair and say, you know what? That was mom. My bad. I'm going to do better. You should never let anyone talk to you that way, even your mom. And, you know, forgive me. Right. So I
mm,
think, of course, we're going to still mess up. But when we catch ourselves and recognize, like, that was me, I did that, um,
mm.
that's huge.
Yeah. And I will say too, like especially for the parents that are listening, I think that sometimes we don't apologize because we don't think it's that big of a deal. And
Hmm.
what I will share with you from my perspective is that it took my mom like 25 years to
Mm,
apologize to me. And it was in a single conversation of her taking responsibility for her decisions and how they affected me that our healing began.
mm-hmm. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
so, whether your kid is 2 or 25, number one, it's never too late to start
Never
repairing.
too late. Yeah.
And number two, an apology and accountability literally can change the trajectory of your relationship.
Yeah. That's so good. Yeah. Oh, you're so inspiring. I love all that you're doing, and I love all the words that are coming out of your mouth. So just want to say that. But we all are
Thank
also are
you.
out of time. So
Oh, yeah, of
I
course.
know. So we're gonna wrap this up, but I just appreciate your honesty and transparency. I do feel you are a very authentic human, and I can just sense that like you truly know who you are, the good and the bad, the good and the bad. Yeah, I said that right. I was like, wait, did I say that right? Um, or I should say the good and the hard, right? How about that? That's better.
Mhm.
And just what you're giving back to people is so important because you're giving back what you didn't have and found,
Mm,
right?
yeah.
Um, so first, I want to ask you, what would 3 resources be that you would recommend to our listeners who maybe are just starting their healing journey? Maybe they're in this a while, but just 3 resources that have helped you that you would want to pass on.
Oh my gosh, I have so many. I think that uh, first and foremost, like finding help, external help,
Yeah.
right? And whether that is in the form of, different financial situations, whether that is in the form of a coach, a therapist, a healer, whatever modality that you feel most drawn to, just make the decision. Don't hesitate. Um, just finding somebody that can reflect things back to you and
Hmm.
also like sit with you in the shit,
Yeah.
right? Somebody that can call you on your stuff in a gentle way is really, really important. I'm so thankful for the accountability that I had because I think that a lot of people don't change because there's no accountability. So,
Yeah.
some sort of external accountability, I would say, find that, even if that's in your home. Eric and
Mm.
I have like certain accountabilities, like we've established like this is a no non-yelling household. And
Mhm.
so anytime somebody yells, whether it's the kids or one of us, the other one will say that, and it's not in
Mhm.
a like accusatory tone. It's just a reminder of the standard that we've set. So just some sort of accountability that will hold you to who you need to be.
Yeah.
So I would say that, and then I
Okay.
think books and podcasts
Yeah.
again. Like,
Yeah.
obviously your podcast, the work that you're doing, this kind of stuff is life changing,
Mhm.
right? And not only, don't just listen to this podcast and then go about your day.
Yeah.
Listen to this podcast, internalize it, and then journal. Like,
Yeah.
write it down and then find that accountability. Like, develop a process for yourself that will give you the change that you want. So yeah, definitely utilizing, there are so many low cost
Yep.
resources.
For sure.
And then let's see, what would be a good third one? What do you think with where your people are? What do you think? Is it something more tactical, or is it words of wisdom that they would need to hear? What do you think would be most helpful?
I think one thing they could do today.
Oh, honestly, I'm going to go back to the mirror.
Okay.
There's something powerful about standing in a mirror
Mhm.
and looking at yourself for the
Mhm.
first time, looking at yourself and taking accountability. Because the second that you forget that your reality is created by you,
Yeah.
is the second that you lose control of your life.
Yeah. That's good.
So
Yeah.
if you just find a mirror in your house, sit down in front of it and ask yourself, how am I the problem?
Mhm.
How am I contributing to the things in my life that don't feel good right now? How am I contributing? And then be honest.
Mhm.
right? Whether that's a relationship, parenting, the way that we speak to our kids. If that you don't like the way that your kids speak to you, how are you speaking to them?
Yeah. Ding, ding, ding. Yeah. Yeah.
You know?
That's good. Okay. Oh my gosh. Um, okay. Well, how can people find you? Because I am certain that there's going to be people that listen and be like, okay, I need to talk to her more. How do we find you?
Mhm. Yeah, I would love that. So you can obviously listen to my podcast. My
Yeah,
podcast is
please
the Mom
do.
Founders, the Mom Founders Table. That's on like wherever you listen. It's tailored towards mom entrepreneurs, of course. And you can find me on my website. You can find me on all social media platforms.
Okay. Yep. And I'll link all of that in the show notes so people can easily find you. But coming back to your podcast, yes, it is geared towards mom entrepreneurs, but I will say that I have yet to listen to an episode where I don't feel like you're speaking to me as a mom. And
Oh,
there's obviously stuff, even like the one on leadership is like, yeah, we're leaders for our kids. So even if you're not an entrepreneur, I think you should still listen because there's you have good nuggets. I mean, just like our
thank
conversation
you.
today, like your words are amazing. And you wrote a book. I heard you say that.
I did write a book in 2020, I think it was. So you can find
Okay.
that on Amazon. Cupcake's gonna bark. It's okay, it's just daddy. Um, you can find it on Amazon. It's called Below the Surface. And
Okay.
it's my confidence building framework to reach your goals without overwhelm. So it actually walks you through my story and kind of the process that I took to go from like rock bottom to building something that felt purposeful.
Okay, cool. I'll link that as well. So I appreciate you. I appreciate all the work you're doing. I appreciate this conversation. I feel like a better person just because I talked to you. So
Oh my
thank
God, you're
you.
amazing.
Thank you for your time today.
Yeah, of course. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Yep. You have a great day.
You too.